Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chester, city that I've been to before, of course, with the channel. And today I'm walking down Bridge Street, staring straight into some lovely winter sunshine, so apologies for squinting and everything. And we're heading down towards the River Dee, because I've come out specifically to take some shots of the Old Dee Bridge at Handbridge. Handbridge was in existence in the Iron Age, before the Romans settled here and developed the fortress town of Diva. But obviously, apologies for the noise. Oh, goodness me, well, now that I've gotten away from the workmen making that horrendous noise, we are now continuing our little walk down towards the River Dee and to the Old Dee Bridge at Handbridge. As I was saying, the settlement of Handbridge was in existence back in the Iron Age, but it became much busier and more populous once the Romans arrived. In actual fact, Handbridge supplied a lot of the sandstone from which many of the buildings in Chester are constructed from. So the archway that you can see across the road there is a modern reconstruction, but it is on the lines of the old Roman city walls. Absolutely beautiful mid-January morning. Still a little bit fresh, as they say, but perfect really. Not a lot of cloud cover, so harsh sunlight, and we're going to see what we can get when I eventually reach the Old Dee Bridge, which is just through this archway here. Now this is the weir across the River Dee, and it's early, I think 10th century, I might be wrong. If I am, as usual, I'll correct myself. So here we are on the Old Dee Bridge, and at one point, of course, this was the single most important route into the city from the south, and for that reason it was heavily fortified, not only during the Roman period but right up until the English Civil War, because Chester was a royalist stronghold, but it was besieged and eventually fell to the parliamentarians, and for a long time this bridge was heavily damaged, which forced the parliamentarians to actually ford the river upstream, and that led to the Battle of Rowton Heath. It's got plenty of history, this bridge, that's for sure. So there we are, that gives you a good view of the Old Dee Bridge. The weir is on the far side of it from here. During the course of the English Civil War, there were actually defences at either end of this bridge. Royalists wanted to deny the parliamentarians easy access into the city, obviously. And if I pan you around to the left, over there, the very large building that you can see is the Chester Crown Court, and there is a sort of square brick tower towards the left-hand end. That's Agricola's tower, which was essentially Roman, and rebuilt, I think, in the 18th, 19th century. That may well feature in a future video. We shall see. Now today I've come out with the Olympus Pen F and 3 lenses. I have the 60mm from Sigma, the 17mm 2.8 Zuiko from Olympus, and the 25mm 1.4 Leica Lumix lens. So I haven't gone extreme wide angle or the other way, extreme telephoto. Just a nice compact 3 prime lens setup. Works perfectly well in the think tank shoulder bag that I've got with me today, and plenty of space for the Osmo and the bits and pieces that go with it. So all in all, I'm looking forward to this. I'm now going to put the Osmo down while I concentrate on some stills of the bridge, and then after that we're going to see a what are we going to go and see? We're going to see a piece of Roman architecture to the goddess Minerva. I've just risked getting a few funny looks from people passing by, but I've come into the bushes here. I'm just going to spin the Osmo around so you can see where I'm standing and what I'm looking at, because I think this gives a nicer composition than the first couple of shots I've taken of the bridge. So obviously from here all you can see is fence and bushes and things, but if I put the Osmo here you get more a sort of idea of the composition. We've got a very bland, blank looking sky today, so a little bit of foliage in the top of the frame there just helps to take the edge off that. I love the old rowing boat that's just peeking out of the water down there. So now we're just walking on a little bit further, because in this field, which by the way is known as Edgar's Field, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment, but somewhere not too far away is a shrine to the Roman goddess Minerva, which I've never seen before, but we'll go and have a look at it. This is what's left of the sandstone bedrock, which of course was quarried, and an awful lot of the sandstone buildings in Chester originated right here. Well, here we are, the very heavily weathered shrine to the Roman goddess Minerva. You can make out her figure, and obviously the stones surrounding it were placed, I guess, later, post-Roman. So interesting to see when you consider the age of it. I mean, Rome, the empire collapsed in about, what, 4th century? And certainly when they left, that ushered in the Dark Ages into Britain. So, who the heck was Edgar? I hear everybody crying out loud, or just crying. Edgar was a 10th century king of England, and unfortunately back in those days anybody who could write was probably monastic or certainly religious, and their writings were much more heavily weighted towards the goings on with the church and the like. So there's very little recorded information about Edgar. I believe he was known as Edgar the Peacemaker or Edgar the Peaceable, and the story has it that he had a palace here on this ground somewhere, and various leaders came up the Dee in boats to pay homage to him. That might be a load of baloney, but you never know with these stories, do you really? Anyway, what we're going to do now is head back over the Old Dee Bridge, which you can see behind me, head up Bridge Street, and I'm going to do some detail architectural shots of the half-timbered buildings between me and the railway station. The excitement is building, I can tell. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we just walked up Lower Bridge Street from the river, and I'm about to cross the main road, and that will lead me onto Bridge Street proper, which is also really the beginning of the famous Chester Rows, the medieval, what would you call them? Medieval walkways above street level, which the town has become rightly famous for. Tremendously atmospheric up here on the rows, and of course this a bit further on is where I used to work when I was in retail. I'll just show you Bridge Street down below us. You can see that we are clearly one complete story above street level, and of course completely undercover. Doesn't matter what the weather does, you're not going to get rained on when you're walking down Chester Rows, that's for sure. So let's do a few more stills. Foregate and Eastgate Street, approaching the famous clock tower. Don't ever expect to come to Chester and find it quiet. It is always packed with people. Okay, so there we are. Just a quick visit to Handbridge. A little bit of information about the history of the place. It's kind of predates the Roman Chester, and for that reason I think it's well worth having a look at. Not sure what stills are going to be like, but down to my usual standard, no doubt. We will see. Just going underneath the big clock. It is rather spectacular. Has a curious mix of mainly pedestrianised streets, but you do find the occasional car sneaking through as well. Anyway, I'm going to be making my way back to the railway station now. So I hope you've enjoyed this little guided tour around a slightly lesser known part of Chester. And I will see you all very soon for another absolutely riveting episode of Photography for Enjoyment. So in the meantime, do make sure you get out with your camera. It's the beginning of 2025, spring's just around the corner, Easter, all that malarkey. Get out there with your gear and just enjoy yourselves. Stay safe, and I will see you all probably next week. Bye for now, everyone.